The St. Louis Blues are officially eliminated from playoff contention, as this was a very interesting year for St. Louis, but they will not be playing playoff hockey. Let's take a look at what went wrong for the Blues this season. Going back to last season, the Blues struggled early on, but made a coaching change to Jim Montgomery, kind of turned their season around as they made the playoffs and almost made it to the second round. Had a 2-goal lead with 2 minutes left, and eventually gave the game-tying goal with less than 5 seconds to go to eventually lose to Winnipeg in overtime. So after being so close to making it to the second round, you figure expectations were pretty high for St. Louis to at least be a playoff team going into this season. But unfortunately, they got off to a very slow start, and they struggled out of the gate just like they always do. First half of the season, Jordan Binnington was not great, as he's been a historic big game goaltender. He's been great in the playoffs, and he was great for Team Canada in the Olympics. But early on in the season, he struggled, and that really put St. Louis in an early hole. He had his name all throughout trade talks, all throughout the season, but they didn't pull the trigger, and he is still a member of the St. Louis Blues. But they did trade a couple other pieces, as they traded Falk and Shen for both a first and a third round pick, making some nice moves at the trade deadline to help load up in the draft. So St. Louis enters the draft with 3 first-round picks and 3 third-round picks, but they do not have a second-round pick. Pretty good for a team that is still competing for a playoff spot this late into the season. In addition to their own first-round pick, they will also have Detroit's first-round pick, which will be at least top 16 because Detroit has been eliminated from playoff contention as well. They also have Colorado's first-round pick, which is expected to be later in the draft, but a first-round pick nonetheless is always better to have. Despite trade rumors around Rob Thomas, Jordan Kyrou, and a few other players, St. Louis is really kind of an interesting team that I'm pretty high on heading into the offseason. I know they had a disappointing year this season, but this team still has that championship core from the 2019 Stanley Cup winning team, and I believe that this season was maybe more of an outlier than anything. I think the slow start kind of set them back, and they made some great moves at the deadline to not only get some future assets, but bring up some of their younger players to play later in the season. And you saw that they played a lot better even after the trade deadline and was right there competing for a wild card spot. I wouldn't expect too much really from St. Louis in the offseason. I don't expect them to make a big splash, as that's not their MO. They're very good at drafting and developing talent, and I kind of expect them to make some smaller moves, maybe a bigger trade, but nothing over the top. I think they stay the course, and if they do, I think they could very well find themselves as a team competing for the playoffs next season. With 3 first-round picks going into the offseason, all they need to do is really shore up that defense, maybe add a top 6 forward, and St. Louis could find themselves being a very competitive team going into next season, especially if Jordan Binnington plays better. So we'll have to see what St. Louis does in the offseason.